Hi, today I'm here with personal injury attorney Jason Macri. How are you, Jason?
Great, Greg. How are you?
Good. And today I want to talk about people who've been involved in an accident in the state of Florida while riding a bicycle and unfortunately were struck by an automobile or a truck. Now, as a personal injury attorney, someone calls you. Obviously, the injuries are very serious because they were hit by a car and a bike, and usually the person on the bike ends up a lot worse off than the person in the car.
Right.
What's the first thing going through your mind as a personal injury attorney saying that I have to do for this person who's been involved in this bike accident?
Right. Unfortunately, most bicycle accidents involve very, very serious injuries, as you've pointed out. And by the time somebody's able to contact me, that's typically 2 to 3 days after they've been struck by this car. So I immediately need to get into investigation mode right away. I need to be able to know what happened. I need to be able to know if there are any witnesses so I can interview those people. I need to be able to get a copy of the police report and find out what the police are saying happened and get my investigator involved so that my investigator can look further into the matter and see exactly what happened and also help to find these witnesses, because let's face it, right away, if there are witnesses, they would be willing to let us know exactly what happened. But as time goes by and as days go by, people become unavailable. People suddenly decide they don't want to be involved and that they don't want to be talking to lawyers and they don't want to be talking to investigators. It is extremely important for us to get involved and investigate as soon as we possibly can to gather up evidence.
Now, as we stated, the injuries are always serious in these bike accident cases, but just because the accident happened doesn't mean that the person who struck the cyclist, and what we usually call the defendant, is going to say, oh yeah, it was my fault. So what are the common defenses that you get in these bike versus car accidents?
Many people don't realize, but a bicyclist has the right of way just as any other motorist does when on the roadway. But it doesn't mean that if a vehicle strikes a bicyclist that all of a sudden the driver of that vehicle is automatically negligent. For example, let's say a bicyclist is not crossing the street in the walkway or in the crosswalk, and they're just simply riding across the middle of a street. Well, in that situation, of course, the driver of the automobile is going to say, hey, this bicyclist just jutted out into the middle of the road. I had no opportunity to see them whatsoever, and I struck them. So typical defenses in these types of cases are that the driver of the vehicle is going to say this bicyclist came out of nowhere, did not have the right of way, was not visible to them, so maybe at night was not driving with a light, did not have reflectors on their bicycle or their garment, their clothing. Those are the typical defenses, that either the bicyclist was not in the proper area, such as a crosswalk, jutted out into the middle of the road, or was not visible in any way while riding their bicycle.
And I know you've had a lot of cases where a bicyclist is on the sidewalk and maybe they're going the opposite direction of traffic and they come out of a driveway and the driver says, oh, I didn't look that way, I didn't see them.
That's absolutely right. You've got much of the time, the driver of the automobile is pulling out of a plaza or pulling out of a driveway and maybe only looks one direction. They might look to the direction that the vehicular traffic is coming from, not realizing somebody could be on a bicycle and could be on the sidewalk coming from the other direction. And so that's actually one of the most frequent ways that a bicyclist is struck by a vehicle is, coming from a direction that the driver of the vehicle did not expect. But it is on the driver of the vehicle to look both ways and to look all ways before pulling out into traffic, not only from the area where they expect the vehicular traffic to come from, but also from where the bicyclist may be coming.
All right, so let's assume you've completed your investigation of the accident. And as part of that investigation, I know that you have to make a determination as to where is the money going to come from to compensate your client who was struck on the bike for what happened to them. So what is that source of money?
That's right. Unfortunately, in the state of Florida, not every driver has bodily injury coverage. Bodily injury coverage is something you would purchase from your auto insurance company. And what it would do is it would provide coverage in the event that the person with the bodily injury coverage injured somebody else. Well, in the state of Florida, that's simply not a requirement. The only requirement in the state of Florida is personal injury protection, PIP. And all that does is cover the actual policy holder, the person with the PIP, and provides them with up to $10,000 of medical coverage in the event they're injured. But the rider of the bicycle if they have PIP, if they have auto insurance, if they have their own vehicle, luckily they will be covered and be able to get those benefits if they are struck by another vehicle, regardless of whether the other vehicle has bodily injury coverage. But what is most important here is that if a person riding a bicycle, a bicyclist, is struck by another vehicle, what's most important is whether that other vehicle and that policyholder has bodily injury coverage, because that is the type of coverage that is going to be able to get the bicyclist compensated for their pain and suffering, for their future pain and suffering, for the inconvenience and all other expenses that come along with getting injured.
And just so we're clear, when a person goes and leases a car or buys a car, the bodily injury coverage is the ones that they can get in the amounts of $10,000, $25,000, $50,000, I guess all the way up to $1 million in some cases.
That's right. That's starting at $1020. $1020 is $10,000 per person, $20,000 total per incident, all the way up to, in some cases, $1 million and $5 million and up, depending on the type of policy. But that's exactly right. Bodily injury coverage is purchased in increments like that. And the sole intention of bodily injury coverage is to make sure that if the person holding the bodily injury coverage injures somebody else, then the person they injure will be able to get compensated out of that bodily injury coverage.
Right. And because of the fact that there could be cases, and unfortunately there are many, where the person that caused the accident has no insurance coverage and you as a lawyer aren't able to make a recovery for them, how do your fees work? And any money you've spent investigating a case, is the person who was injured going to be responsible for those if you don't make a recovery?
Not at all. We work solely off of a contingency fee. The only way that we're able to collect an attorney's fee is if we're able to get our clients compensated, if we're able to get an award for our clients. We don't charge any fees. We certainly don't charge any upfront fees, any consultation fees. We don't ask our clients to pay us directly at all. If I'm unable to be successful for somebody, they owe me nothing at all. And I'd never charge them, never bill them, and never try to collect any money from them.
And in terms of your availability for people in the state of Florida, is it just one city, anywhere in the state of Florida? Where are you available for people injured in accidents in Florida?
I am licensed to practice everywhere in the entire state of Florida. And so I handle cases from the Florida Keys all the way up to the Panhandle and everywhere in between. If a person's injured in the state of Florida, I certainly can represent them and help them get compensated and help them make sure that they are treated fairly by all parties involved, including insurance companies.
Okay. And we hear a lot, and I see commercials for other lawyers and things like that, but I know that you're a trial attorney, and what does that mean in terms of your ability to take a case to trial versus many of the other law firms we know about who just settle cases?
That's right. Many law offices don't have any trial attorneys on staff. So what they're trying to do is negotiate with insurance companies. Well, I can tell you much of the time that negotiation goes nowhere. Insurance companies keep dossiers on firms, and they know which firms are filing lawsuits and which firms are not. At the end of the day, an insurance company is really only concerned with having a lawsuit filed against their policyholder, because that leaves their exposure to be quite large. They're worried about getting large verdicts against them. So if a law office is not filing lawsuits, that limits how far a law office can take a case. We file lawsuits. We bring these cases to court, and we bring these cases before juries, because sometimes the only way a person is going to get compensated is to have a jury hear their case and have a jury decide what their award should be.
Okay, so I don't want the person watching this video to think that every case has to result in a lawsuit, because there are a percentage of cases that resolve without a lawsuit.
That's right. And I didn't mean to make anybody think we file a lawsuit on every case, because we certainly do not. Many of these cases are able to be resolved directly with the insurance company, the policyholder, or the person who's at fault. The vast majority of them are able to be resolved without the filing of the lawsuit. But if there's a situation where a lawsuit must be filed, rest assured we will file it on behalf of the injured party to get them compensated.
All right, well, thank you for your time today and educating a potential client or someone that's been involved in a bike accident in Florida. And I know they can call the number at the bottom of the screen. And are you available at any time to answer those calls?
I'm available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Well, thank you again for your time today.
Thank you, Gregory. Appreciate it.